he asked, for he was accustomed to the elk's nightly visits. Again he heard the call. Then he recognized Greyskin's voice, and hastened in the direction of the sound. Karr heard the elk's footfalls in the distance as he dashed into the thickest pine wood and straight through the brush, following no trodden path. Karr could not catch up with him, and he had great difficulty in even following the trail. "Karr, Karr!" came the cry, and the voice was certainly Greyskin's, although it had a ring now which the dog had never heard before. "I'm coming! I'm coming!" the dog responded. "Where are you?" "Karr, Karr! Don't you see how it falls and falls?" said Greyskin. Then Karr noticed that the pine needles kept dropping and dropping from the trees, like a steady fall of rain. "Yes, I see how it falls!" he cried, and ran far into the forest in search of the elk. Greyskin kept running through the thickets, while Karr was about to lose the trail again. "Karr, Karr!" roared Greyskin. "Can't you scent that peculiar odour in the forest?" Karr stopped and sniffed. He had not thought of it before, but now he remarked that the pines sent forth a much stronger odour than usual. "Yes, I catch the scent," he said. He did not stop long enough to find out the cause of it, but hurried on after Greyskin. The elk ran ahead with such speed that the dog could not catch up with him. "Karr, Karr!" he called. "Can't you hear the crunching on the pines?" Now his tone was so plaintive it would have melted a stone. Karr paused to listen. He heard a faint but distinct tap, tap on the trees. It sounded like the ticking of a watch. "Yes, I hear how it ticks!" cried Karr, and ran no farther. He understood that the elk did not want him to follow, but to take notice of something that was happening in the forest. Karr was standing beneath the drooping branches of a great pine. He looked carefully at it. The needles moved. He went closer and saw a mass of grayish white caterpillars creeping along the branches, gnawing off the needles. Every branch was covered with them. The crunch, crunch in the trees came from the working of their busy little jaws. Gnawed off needles fell to the ground in a continuous shower, and from the poor pines there came such strong odour that the dog suffered from it. "What can be the meaning of this?" wondered Karr. "It's too bad about the pretty trees. Soon they'll have no beauty left." He walked from tree to tree, trying with his poor eyesight to see if all was well with them. "There's a pine they haven't touched," he thought, but they had taken possession of it too. "And here's a birch. No, this also. The game keeper will not be pleased with this," observed Karr. He ran deeper into the thickets to learn how far the destruction had spread. Wherever he went he heard the same ticking, scented the same odour, saw the same needle rain. There was no need of his pausing to investigate. He understood it all by these signs. The little caterpillars were everywhere. The whole forest was being ravaged by them. All of a sudden he came to a tract where there was no odour, and where all was still. "Here's the end of their domain," thought the dog, as he paused and glanced about. But here it was even worse, for the caterpillars had already done their work, and the trees were needless. They were like dead. The only thing that covered them was a network of ragged threads, which the caterpillars had spun to use as roads and bridges. In here, among the dying trees, Greyskin stood waiting for Karr. He was not alone. With him were 4 old elk, the most respected in the forest. Karr knew them. They were Crooked Back, who was a small elk, but had a larger hump than the others; Antler Crown, who was the most dignified of the elk; Rough Mane, with a thick coat; and an old legged one, who up till the autumn before, when he got a bullet in his thigh, had been terribly hot-tempered and quarrelsome. "What in the world is happening to the forest?" Karr asked when he came up to the elk. They stood with lowered heads, far protruding upper lips, and looked puzzled. "No one can tell," answered Greyskin. "This insect family used to be the least hurtful of any in the forest, and never before have they done any damage. But these last few years they have been multiplying so fast that now it appears as if the entire forest would be destroyed." "Yes, it looks bad," Karr agreed. "But I see that the wisest animals in the forest have come together to hold a consultation." "Perhaps you have already found a remedy." When the dog said this, Crooked Back solemnly raised his heavy head, pricked up his long ears, and spoke. "We have summoned you hither, Karr, that we may learn if the humans know of this desolation." "No," said Karr. "No human being ever comes thus far into the forest when it is not hunting time. They know nothing of this misfortune." Then Antler Crown said: "We who have lived long in the forest do not think that we can fight this insect pest all by ourselves." "After this there will be no peace in the forest," put in Rough Mane. "But we can't let the whole Liberty Forest go to rack and ruin," protested Big and Strong. "We'll have to consult the humans. There is no alternative." Karr understood that the elk had difficulty in expressing what they wished to say, and he tried to help them. "Perhaps you want me to let the people know the conditions here?" he suggested. All the old elk nodded their heads. "It is most unfortunate that we are obliged to ask help of human beings, but we have no choice." A moment later Karr was on his way home. As he ran ahead, deeply distressed over all that he had heard and seen, a big black water snake approached them. "Well met in the forest!" hissed the water snake. "Well met again!" snarled Karr, and rushed by without stopping. The snake turned and tried to catch up to him. "Perhaps that creature also is worried about the forest," thought Karr, and waited. Immediately the snake began to talk about the great disaster. "There will be an end of peace and quiet in the forest when human beings are called hither," said the snake. "I'm afraid there will," the dog agreed. "But the oldest forest dwellers know what they are about," he added. "I think I know a better plan," said the snake, "if I can get the reward I wish." "Are you not the one whom everyone around here calls Old Helpless?" said the dog sneeringly. "I am an old inhabitant of the forest," said the snake, "and I know how to get rid of such plagues." "If you clear the forest of that pest, I feel sure you can have anything you ask for," said Karr. The snake did not respond to this until he had crawled under a tree stump, where he was well protected. Then he said: "Tell Greyskin that if he will leave Liberty Forest forever, and go far north where no oak tree grows, I will send sickness and death to all the creeping things that gnaw the pines and spruces." "What's that you say?" asked Karr, bristling up. "What harm has Greyskin ever done you?" "He has slain the one whom I loved best," the snake declared, "and I want to be avenged." Before the snake had finished speaking, Karr made a dash for him, but the reptile lay safely hidden under the tree stump. "Stay where you are," Karr concluded. "We'll manage to drive out the caterpillars without your help." End of Karr and Greyskin, Part 2. Read by Lars Rolander.